She stomped onto my property screaming, waving her phone like a weapon. "I'm calling the cops. Arrest him now." I barely had time to step back as she dialed 911, her voice cracking with entitlement, claiming I had no right to be on my own ranch. Her son hovered behind her, smirking, clearly expecting me to panic. I stayed calm, letting her rage fill the empty driveway, because she didn't know one thing. I was the sheriff. As she read from a crumpled HOA notice, claiming that my land violated some fake community rule, I let her think she had power. Her face twisted when I reached into my jacket and pulled out my badge, the sun glinting off the metal like a warning. "This is my land," I said quietly, my voice steady, "and I enforce the law here." She froze for a moment, disbelief flashing across her face before she tried to recover and shout again. I stayed calm, watching as she realized the calls. She made wouldn't matter, that fake authority and entitlement don't stand a chance against the law. Every word she screamed, every threat she made, only made the situation more humiliating for her. As neighbors peeked from behind curtains and her son turned pale, suddenly aware that their plan had failed before it even began. The twist came when she finally tried a last move, waving her arms to summon backup from supposed HOA security, but all it did was expose her lies. Because I already had the sheriff's office monitoring the property remotely, she thought she could intimidate me, push me off my ranch, and flaunt her fake rules. She didn't know that the moment she called 911, she triggered the one thing she couldn't control: my authority. And in that instant, standing on my own land, I let her fury crash around me, knowing the real power wasn't in the threats or the calls. It was in the truth she refused to see. She stepped back, gasping, trying to catch her composure, but I could see the panic in her eyes. You can't do this." "I called the cops," she stammered, pointing at her phone like it was a weapon. I leaned against the fence, calm and steady, letting her spiral. Her son muttered something under his breath, trying to look confident, but the way he glanced at me betrayed his fear. "Do you honestly think I don't know about all your little schemes?" I said, letting my words hang. Her mouth opened, closed, and opened again, no words coming out. She had spent weeks trying to intimidate me, leaving fake notices, whispering to neighbors, claiming HOA rules I'd never agreed to. But she didn't realize that I had footage from the ranch cameras, logs of her trespassing, and a network of deputies ready if anything escalated. Her face twisted in anger and disbelief when she realized I wasn't just bluffing. Every threat she made could be used against her. "This is my home," she finally shouted, but the sound rang hollow. I smiled faintly, knowing the ultimate twist was about to hit her. I owned the property in full, the documents hidden from her prying eyes, and my authority meant her calls to 911 didn't scare me. They only proved she had no control. Around us, neighbors peeked out, some whispering, some filming. She thought she was the star of this drama, the one in control, but the truth was far different. I let her realize it slowly, savoring every flustered step she took, every desperate look at her phone, because the moment of humiliation was only beginning. Her panic grew as she tried one last tactic, waving her arms and screaming that I was breaking the law, that she was going to make me leave. But I didn't flinch. Instead, I calmly walked toward the edge of my property, pointing at the "no" trespassing signs I had posted years ago, all perfectly legal and recorded with timestamps. Her eyes darted around, realizing that every neighbor watching, every camera recording, every deputy on standby now knew the truth. She attempted to call her HOA friends for backup, but her messages went unanswered. I could see her son's confidence fading, replaced with fear, as he whispered, "Mom, maybe we should leave." The audacity of her entitlement clashed violently with reality. The rules she made up, the authority she flaunted, meant nothing when the law itself was standing in front of her. Then came the twist that made her freeze completely. I casually mentioned, "You might want to check who actually owns the ranch." Her eyes widened, her voice caught in her throat, and she realized the moment she thought she was in control, she had already lost. All the shouting, all the fake complaints, all the threats were powerless against someone who had the badge, the evidence, and the law on their side. In that instant, the street felt electric with tension, every neighbor witnessing the downfall of a woman who believed entitlement could override truth. She stumbled backward, her hands trembling as she tried to think of another move, but every option was gone. Her voice wavered as she yelled, "This isn't fair! You can't just do this!" I stepped closer, letting the calm in my posture contrast with the chaos she created. The twist came when I pointed toward the surveillance feed displayed on my tablet footage of her sneaking onto the property days before, planting fake HOA notices, talking to neighbors trying to intimidate them. Her jaw dropped. You recorded that?" she whispered, realizing that every lie, every attempt to manipulate the situation had been documented. I stayed quiet, letting the humiliation settle in. Her son tried to interject. "Mom, maybe?" But I shook my head, letting her see clearly that the law and truth were aligned against her. The neighbors had phones out, recording every reaction, every flustered gesture. She had thought she could bend rules, push me off my land, and flaunt fake authority, but the hidden power twist, the fact that I wasn't just the sheriff, but the rightful owner of the ranch, with complete legal documentation, had flipped the entire scenario. In her shock, I could see the moment she understood. Her entitlement, her arrogance, her threats, none of it mattered. And in that silence, broken only by her shallow breaths, I let the tension hang because the story was far from over and justice was only beginning to unfold. Her panic turned into desperate scheming. She grabbed her phone again, dialing 911 as if sheer volume could bend reality. "You'll see, they'll make him leave," she shouted, her voice cracking with fury. I stayed calm, leaning against my porch railing, letting her unravel. The twist hit when I casually mentioned, "Funny, the dispatch already confirmed I'm the responding officer if anything happens here." Her eyes widened, her fingers froze mid-dial. The son looked on, pale and stiff, finally realizing that their plan wasn't just failing, it had already failed. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains, whispers spreading through the street as cameras silently captured her every frantic move. She tried one last bluff, claiming some HOA regulation about emergency occupancy, but I produced the official deed, notarized and recorded years ago, proving not just my ownership, but also the legality of every structure on the ranch. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again, no words, just shock. The final twist for this section came when the neighbors, emboldened by the unfolding scene, began filming and even calling the real local HOA office to confirm her lies. She realized too late that her entitlement and fake authority were no match for someone who had both law and truth backing him, and in that moment the air was thick with humiliation, tension, and the unmistakable feeling of justice finally arriving. She sank back a few steps, her phone still clutched in her trembling hands, realizing that every call she made had no power here. Her son muttered something under his breath, clearly worried, but she cut him off, desperate to save face. "You can't do this. I'm the HOA president's daughter," she screamed, hoping that lineage and fake authority could intimidate me. I didn't flinch. Instead, I calmly reminded her, "Titles don't matter on my land. The law does, and I enforce it." Her eyes went wide as the truth settled in. She had spent weeks trying to manipulate and bully, and now every attempt was backfiring spectacularly. The cameras had captured her every move, neighbors had eyes on her, and her son's earlier smirk was gone, replaced by dread. Then came the shocking twist, as she started to speak again. I pressed a button on my tablet, showing live feeds from the ranch's security cameras. Not only had she been recorded trespassing multiple times, but her frantic attempts to manipulate neighbors and fake rules were all documented. Her face turned pale, realizing her threats, fake notices, and 911 calls didn't matter. They had only made her look foolish. And in that moment, as the tension stretched across the driveway, I let her realize that her entitlement and arrogance could never overpower truth, evidence, and authority combined. The final confrontation began to unfold as she stumbled backward, desperate for some last shred of control. Her voice wavered. You can't make me leave." But it was hollow, filled with disbelief. I calmly stepped forward, holding my badge, letting the sun glint off it in a way that made her flinch. The twist that truly broke her came when I revealed the final proof, the official deed to the ranch, showing beyond any doubt that I was the lawful owner. Her eyes widened. Her mouth opened, and she realized that every fake notice, every manipulative call, every attempt to intimidate me had been meaningless. Neighbors peered from behind their windows, some filming, some whispering, all witnessing the unraveling of her arrogance. Her son looked like he wanted to disappear, finally understanding that their little scheme had collapsed entirely. And then came the ultimate justice moment. I called in a deputy to formally record the incident, not because she posed a real threat, but so that her harassment, documented in every detail, could be used if needed. She stood there, speechless, as the reality of her humiliation sank in. The moment was quiet, tense, and satisfying, showing that entitlement and fake authority crumble when confronted with truth, law, and a hidden twist of real power.